for joining the Pico Rivera Planning Commission, the staff, and thanks for being here to all our guests. Today is Monday, April 4th, and we are starting the Planning Commission meeting today. We'll start off actually with the roll call.
Good evening, Commissioners. Chair Estrada,
Here.
Commissioner Solis, Commissioner Eric Martinez, Commissioner Vanessa Martinez,
Present.
Commissioner Garcia.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Up next, we will move forward with the Pledge of Allegiance. Our newest commissioner, would you lead us in that?
Absolutely. If you please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. First order of business today, we have a commission reorganization, so I will now turn it over to our Deputy Director of Community and Economic Development, Ms. Julia Gonzalez.
Good evening, Commissioners. Before we start the commission meeting, I'd like to introduce two new people. Dina Lamarck, she's our new Executive Assistant, and Araceli Almazan, she's our City Attorney who's sitting in for John Lamb today.
Very good, thank you.
So we'll start with the reorganization. Do we have a nomination for chairperson?
Please.
This person has not been on the Planning Commission for a while. He's been very active in Pico Rivera, and he's been on different commissions. He's been on the Parks and Rec, and he's left our Planning Commission, retired and came back. And so I nominate for you Mr. John Garcia.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Perfect.
Get roll call?
Chair Estrada,
Should we open for any other nominations? I guess last
Yes,
call.
of course, I apologize.
Last call nominations on either end? We good? Okay.
Chair Estrada,
Aye.
Commissioner Solis,
Yes?
Commissioner Eric Martinez,
Yes.
Commissioner Vanessa Martinez,
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia.
Yes.
By a unanimous vote, Commissioner John Garcia is now chair.
Very good.
Thank you. Do we swap or? We can just move the gavel for this meeting, no?
So now we will be moving on to the vice chair. Do we have a motion for a vice chairperson?
I would like to nominate Commissioner Eric Martinez.
I'll second that.
Any other nominations? There being none, can we have a roll call, please?
This is for vice chairperson. Chair Garcia,
Yes.
Commissioner Estrada,
Yes.
Commissioner Solis,
Yes.
Commissioner Eric Martinez,
Yes.
Commissioner Vanessa Martinez.
Yes.
By unanimous vote, Vice Chair Eric Martinez is now in place.
Congratulations. Just before we get started, I just want to thank my colleagues on the dais. I hope to get reacclimated real quick. It's been a minute since I've been last here. Without further ado, let's go ahead and proceed with the next commission item. We got a public hearing, and The public hearing is conditional use permit number 750, a request by Madison Capital Group to develop a self-storage facility on a 0.65 acre lot. General Plan Amendment number 60, to increase the floor area ratio zone reclassification number 327, again, that's 327, changing the zone from general commercial to professional administrative. A major variance number of 191, to increase the height of the building and for rear setbacks. And zoning code amendment number 189, amending sections to Title 18, zoning of Pico Rivera Municipal Code. Who do you have?
Thank you, Chairperson. So the site is located at 6605 Rosemead Boulevard. It's the colored property. The site is currently vacant. It's 28,208 square feet. The site has been vacant since the 1980s. Previous to that, there was a single-family home that was demolished. So it's been vacant for approximately 42 years. So the proposal consists of a 4-story, 52 feet in height public storage facility. The total square footage is 63,466 square feet. And there's approximately 680 individual storage units being proposed. The project includes 7 parking spaces, 3 loading bays, and a 621 square feet leasing office. So here you have views from the surrounding area. Most notably, you have to the north the adult residential facility, which a lot of us are very familiar with. To the south is Angels Motel. And then to the east of that is a liquor store and Knights Inn Motel. And then behind the site are single-family residential properties. So just to recap the applications being proposed, there's a general plan amendment to increase the floor area ratio to 2.5. There's a zoning code amendment amending sections of the Pico Rivera Municipal Code to allow public storage facilities. There's a zone reclassification, which is to change the zone from its general commercial to professional administrative. There's a conditional use permit to allow the facility and a variance application to allow the height deviation and also some setbacks. So the floor area ratio, it controls the intensity of what is allowed on the site. So this is a good depiction from our general plan, which shows the different floor area ratios that are permitted. So basically it takes into account the size of the parcel and how much you can build on it. So currently under the public administrative or commercial designation, it allows currently a 1 floor area ratio, which basically says you can cover the entire site or up to 2 stories or kind of half of the site if you see that picture up in the front. So what we're proposing is to increase it to 2.5, which allows them the height of the property. So the proposed amendment is to increase the floor area ratio to 2.5 under that commercial land use designation. So what that does throughout all commercial land use designations, it allows that height. Now, this is something that we as planners have been thinking of increasing for some time now. Back in 2014, we allowed the increase of height in mixed-use areas, but we did not increase the floor area ratio. So this is consistent with the height that was approved back in 2014, which allowed up to 60 feet in that mixed-use designation. So another application is zoning code amendment number 189, and this makes amendments to the text itself of the municipal code or the zoning ordinance. So one of the first things that we looked at is the existing definition of self-storage. The old definition, which is crossed out, limited a certain size. So we completely removed that, removed the size requirement, and just defined what a public storage facility is. And again, it removes the square footage that it has. We don't select it small versus a larger public storage facility. So in the land use table, and this is what the planners typically look at, is the use, land use allowed, and then what are the notes pertaining to that. When you see a 1, that requires a conditional use permit. The 71 is an existing note, and 80, the 80 is a new note that's being proposed. So note 71, back in 2006, the city back then did not permit any more additional public storage facilities. They thought there was an overproliferation of these type of self-storage facilities. And so what staff is proposing now is to allow these self-storage facilities in the public administrative zone, which is, the PA zone is very limited. So there's not many areas in the city that have a PA zone. So this would allow this storage facility, but in the same vote, it would restrict the number of future facilities to be built. So inclusive to that, we added a provision that the self-storage facilities can't be located within 1,000 feet from any other facility. So it really limits where you can build a public storage facility. The only other PA zone that we have throughout the city is on Telegraph Boulevard. It's the medical facilities. So that would be the only other possibility of a self-storage facility. But then again, that would require a conditional use permit, and that would be brought forth to the Planning Commission and eventually to the City Council. So an additional note that was included is note 82, and I basically abbreviated that note. So part of the provisions that we included no business activity, so you can't have a business running out of the storage unit. No outdoor storage. The facility needs to have proper lighting. No hazardous materials would be permitted in the storage facility, and no one can be living in the storage facility. So in addition, because we did not allow the storage facilities in the city, we did not have a parking ratio for storage facilities. So one of the things that we asked the developer to do was to include a parking study as part of their traffic study, which was approved by the city engineer, which determined that a minimum of 5 parking spaces would be required for their project. They included 7 parking spaces and 3 loading bays. So it goes a little bit above what their study found. And then we moved to zone reclassification number 327. That's to change the zone from from general commercial to professional administrative. And again, the PA zone is very limited throughout the city. We don't have many areas in the city that have a PA zone designation. It's probably less than 5% of the zoning in the city. So we mostly see general commercial zones throughout the city, but you hardly see any PA zones. So this is a picture of our zoning map. So the subject property is general commercial, but another reason why we're changing it to professional administrative is because the surrounding parcels are professional administrative. So back in 2014, the planners have then rezoned that property to general commercial to allow for a hotel development. The hotel development never panned out. And therefore, they did not move forward with the application. So part of their application includes a variance. So one of their first requests is the increase in height. So currently, in the PA zone, they're allowed a height of 42 feet. They're asking an additional 10 feet, up to 52 feet. Planning staff does not believe this is an excessive height request because in our current zoning code, excuse me, in our current zoning code, we are allowed up to up to 60 feet for the mixed-use designation. So back in 2014, both the Planning Commission of then and the City Council approved that height for mixed-use developments. Of course, this is not mixed-use development, but it's in line with that height. Another request for a variance is due to the height. So our code requires a 5-foot setback along the rear yard for each story above the 3rd and 4th floor. So in the 3rd floor, you would be required 5 additional feet, up to 30 feet instead of the 25. And in the 4th floor, up to a 10 feet in addition. So they're asking for a variance, so everything is consistent in the building. So the building wouldn't have to be set back. And that's something else that the planners would like to change in the code, and we'll be looking to do that because this is, it's a hard condition to be met. So community outreach, on January 18th, the city held an open house. That we had one attendee attend that open house. And then during the week of February 21st, the project applicant conducted its own door-to-door walk. So they outreach to residents in the area. They actually did get a petition, and I will distribute that petition during the public comment period. Then lastly, the city developed another flyer on February 28th to residents within 1,000 feet of the area. Again, just trying to get some public comments, and we did not receive any public comments. So here's the proposed landscaping plan. So you can see that in the front, they're proposing the Brisbane box along Rosemead Boulevard, including with the western redbud. And then in the rear, to buffer the height of the building, they're proposing the Canary Island pine tree. So environmental review, the developer prepared an initial study and mitigated negative declaration. The M&D was posted for 30 days, uploaded to the State Office of Planning and Research. And the study found that the impacts would be less than significant. So a few things on the conditional use permit resolution. There's some changes that were agreed upon by the city and the developer. They're generally minor in nature. So condition number 18, the applicant wanted the city to add demand to that sentence, so that was not an issue. Condition number 26, we eliminated the 8-foot high fence on that northern side because they do only have a 1-foot setback, and that's consistent with the municipal code, the 1-foot setback. So we deleted that 6 to 8-foot high block wall fence. Condition number 43, the developer was concerned about the conflicts with other conditions, so we added language to state to the extent that the conditions are not in conflict, if they can meet the condition of permeable asphalt concrete. Condition number 44, we discussed a block wall on the rear property line. The applicant had some concerns regarding some landscaping from the residential properties. So both parties agreed that we would conduct a site visit and see if a block wall was indeed necessary in that area, and also discussing that with the residents in that area to see what their preference was. Condition number 45, again, the developer was concerned with conflicting conditions, so we added language to the extent that the conditions do not conflict with other agency conditions, that the downspouts would be completely enclosed and run into landscaped areas. Condition number 67, we added, in conformance with the California Environmental Quality Act, section that the applicant would provide proof of payment to the Department of Fish and Game. And this is very typical of conditional use permits. They need to either get an exemption from the Department of Fish and Game or pay a fee to the Department of Fish and Game. Condition number 68, it's another CEQA compliance. They have to file the CEQA documentation with the county clerk, and we asked the applicant to do that in consistency with that CEQA section. And lastly, the administration department and developer agreed upon a one-time in lieu sales tax fee in the amount of $250,000, and we added a condition that they pay that in lieu fee prior to the certificate of occupancy issuance. So we also had some changes to the zone code amendment. One of the things that we eliminated was the requirement for interior wall partitions. We agreed upon that with the developer. We thought that would be fairly costly, and what we agreed upon is they need to meet the conditions of the state building code. So California Environmental Quality Act, one of the conditions that the cities are required to comply with is tribal consultation. So we need to consult with tribes known to the area. We do so, and one of the tribes actually did respond back. It's the Gabrieliano Band of Mission Indians. They submitted a list of conditions that they wanted included as part of the CEQA document, and we put a copy of that document on the Planning Commission's table. So we just want to make sure those changes are reflected as part of the CEQA document. So staff's recommendation is that we adopt attached resolutions with the proposed changes, approving the general plan amendment, zoning code amendment, zone reclassification, conditional use permit, variance application, and the mitigated negative declaration and monitoring program. And this concludes the report.
Thank you for that thorough report. Before we open it up to the applicant, is there any questions, comments, or concerns from the commissioners at this time? Commissioner?
For public hearing, do we have, I don't know if we have any public comment, or can we see the list of individuals who signed a petition? And I do have a question. In terms of getting public input for today's meeting, is City Hall open to the public?
Yes, it is open to the public.
Okay, so like all public meetings, like council, and they're now open? Okay, all right, I just want to understand that. Can I go ahead proceed
Sure,
with my
please.
questions on
Yes, if you have any
this?
questions.
Okay, thank you. I just want to get some of the parameters of what we're dealing with today out of the way. I want to discuss this project with regards to setting a precedent in our city. I believe, I'm in the belief that we should not, that we should stick with our ordinance, which prohibits public storage units. And I know, and I believe, part of this presentation is to, or part of what we're considering is to amend the language for self-storage units, if I'm not mistaken, or vice versa, changing your terminology to allow this business to come into our city. I think our land in the city of Pico Rivera is very valuable. We should be very careful with what we're planning, especially along Rosemead Boulevard, our major transportation corridor, and Washington, where the Gold Line is going to, well, at least it's being discussed as being placed there. However, I also want to say that this site has been, as mentioned, empty for several years. And if we have a business that can work with the neighbors, both the residents and the businesses, for this particular site, it's something that I could consider. However, I don't think we should create language or make exceptions that will allow future self-storage, public storage, whatever you want to call it, to open up in our city. I don't think we should have more than, we should not allow that opportunity to be out there. If it's gonna come to the Planning Commission, I would rather have it on a case-by-case basis when we're talking about a particular site. And that's why I'm saying for this site, it's been empty for several years. There's been proposed projects, nothing has come about. That's why it's still empty. But I don't want this to be an opportunity for us as a planning commission to allow that, again, opportunity for more public or self-storage units to be opening up in our city. We have, that's why we have our code. We back, 14 years ago, that's why that was passed. There are already a few of them in our city taking up a lot of real estate. And the current conditions of our economy, the city, it's dense. We need to prioritize for housing, whether that be mixed use, single family homes. That's something that we can discuss at a future time. But again, I don't feel comfortable moving forward if we're gonna open this up to future development and more self-storage businesses to open up in our city.
Was that it, Commissioner? Any other comments or?
No, that's it.
Thank you for those remarks. Just to follow up on Commissioner's concerns, this is a case-by-case scenario, even though that facility's been dormant, that real estate's been dormant for years. So if we move forward in this arena, everything would still have to come in front of the commission, correct?
Correct. We added a condition that requires a conditional use permit for these type of facilities, inclusive, that PA zone is very limited. So the only other possible site would be on Telegraph, and we would require a conditional use permit there.
Thank you for that. Any other comments? Commissioner Solis?
I'd like to know, what is the street behind this building?
If you give me a minute, I'll look that up.
And you are considering a brick wall for the neighbors behind this building?
There's a partial existing block wall, and one of the conditions is to work with the developer and work with the property owners.
And those residents were already aware of what's coming, how huge that building is going to be in their backyard?
We sent notices, 2 notices from the city, and the developer also did a walk through the neighborhood to advise all the residents of the upcoming project. And then before we build any block wall, the proposal and the condition is to talk to the residents and get their feedback regarding a block wall there.
Commissioner?
Question for staff. Has the engineering department considered modifying that center median to allow a left turn pocket going northbound on Rosemead in lieu of making a U-turn at Kaufman and Pico?
We would have to consult with the engineering department. Typically, that involves a study to allow that left turn pocket. I know they're a bit reluctant to do left turn pockets, for certain types of businesses just because of the potential traffic impacts.
Okay, and I'm concerned about just accessibility for emergency vehicles, so fire, police, ambulances, just that easy access would be my concern.
Any other comments, Commissioner Martinez?
Not at this moment.
Commissioner?
Okay. So first, I just want to say thank you, Julia, for this wonderful presentation. Thank you to staff for putting together such a thorough, descriptive staff report. Is there, so the sort of switch to the professional administrative zone from general commercial, that's sort of a strategic move to limit the number of these facilities that are put into place, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And self-storage and public storage facilities would only be allowed within the professional administrative zone? Correct. Okay, thank you. And then with this zone change, would that site retain its mixed-use overlay, or would that sort of be rescinded with the zone change?
That would stay, the mixed-use overlay would stay.
Okay, great. Because I do agree with Commissioner Estrada that we should be prioritizing housing within the city, but also, it was brought up that this site had been vacant for 42 years. So I can see why a project like this would be, desirable. That being said, I did have some concern about the bulk and the massing of this building on some of the neighboring properties. And I know there was mention of planting the 6 canary pines, which I think is a great way to kind of mitigate the view of this building from some of the neighboring properties. But I was wondering if you had an idea of maybe how long these trees take to mature in order to provide adequate screening. And then until these trees are matured, if staff anticipates any sort of negative impacts to the surrounding properties.
One of the conditions that we added to the conditional use permit is to plant mature trees, so 35-gallon trees, so the more mature trees to kind of buffer the height of the building. The building height is 4 stories. So that's, I think landscaping is the best way to mitigate or try to mitigate that. However, with the mixed-use overlay zone, we potentially allow up to 60 feet. So one of the future plans with housing, with the need of housing, and to allow this mixed-use designation is height. So eventually, staff believes that we're going to have height throughout the city. And the best is not having blank walls. So that's one of the things that we don't want to see is like a massive building with blank walls. We like to have some projections, and if not, having that landscaping as a nice visual buffer for the height.
Thank you.
And just for my clarification.
Commissioner?
For the, in regards to the landscape plan that was just spoken of, these aren't tree wells in the sidewalk, are they?
There's some tree wells, no, they're not. Not the ones you are looking at the front of the property are not. But aside from that, Public Works typically requires some street trees to be planted. But the ones you see in the landscaping plan are not. They're within the property in front of the building.
Alrighty, and one more question I have for you. On the northerly side of the property, is the proposed to build up to the property line? I'm speaking of on the Pico Rivera Garden side.
Yes. So the PA zone does not require a setback. So they have a 1-foot setback on that side, and then there's an existing block wall there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have a couple of questions I would like to just share. Right now, on the proposed plan, there's 1 driveway or 2 driveways coming to and from that facility out onto Rosemead.
There's 1 driveway.
Many of us who travel down Rosemead Boulevard knows it backs up quite a bit. When you're coming down, going south, during traffic hours, it backs up quite a bit. Is there a way we can put another driveway in there where somebody can turn in so it doesn't hold up the traffic on Rosemead? And then there's an exit driveway, an incoming driveway, and an exit driveway, just to alleviate some of the traffic, although there was a traffic study that I see that was done, maybe that'll alleviate some congestion on Rosemead during those peak traffic hours, where you can turn in instead of holding up and then you got a pile of cars behind you trying to turn in. So maybe if we add another driveway, if there's flexibility there to alleviate some of that congestion on Rosemead Boulevard. That's one. And then again, access, as Commissioner pointed out, in terms of emergency as well. We don't want congestion right there where there's cars piled up. The other one is Commissioner Solis pointed out about the west side with the residential area in the back there, the height, since we're looking at 4 stories. Are these windows all the way around? I know we got the residential facility to the north, and then you got housing residents on the west side. So are we able to see into our neighbors' backyards? And if you can,
Sorry, yeah, they're full windows, so they're not real windows. They're made to look like windows,
Okay.
but it's just to dress up the building so we don't have any blank.
okay, because I know if I was a resident, I would want a little privacy in my backyard, just looking up from a residential standpoint. Thank you for clarifying that. And then, let me see, what were the other? How many, well, I'll wait until the applicant, and maybe, how many employees are we looking to run this facility?
It's roughly 2 to 3 employees.
And then the lighting, is that, what kind of lighting are we gonna be using on the exterior? Will that be shining on the perimeters of the residential areas?
So part of the conditions are that the lighting shoot down, so it stays within the property, and inclusive, we're asking for a photometric plan to be submitted, so it's properly lighted.
Awesome. And then I imagine there's video surveillance going on throughout the facility of who's coming, who's going during those hours of operation?
Correct. The applicant is proposing 18 security exterior cameras.
And my final comment is, I could see where Commissioner Estrada's concern was in terms of public storage being in Pico Rivera. You got a couple here and there, and it's illustrated on the diagram. However, my view is when you look at homelessness is a major issue. People losing their home, their jobs, they need to store items. And this may come in at the right time, not really knowing the numbers. Is there any other further comments from my colleagues before we have the applicant move forward?
Chairman, yes, just a couple clarifications. So the only light standard here on this property is just to the northerly side, correct? Is there any plans to add any additional light standard, or is we just going to keep the ones that exist?
So that's a preliminary plan. So we, as part of the conditions of approval, is to submit a photometric plan to ensure that the properly lighted. And typically, we request between a 0.5 and a 1 point foot candle. So it's pretty fairly lighted without being obtrusive to the neighbors.
And in terms of the height proposal, and it might have been in one of your slides, how does it compare to the adjacent buildings?
So adjacent to this building is the adult residential facility. That's approximately about 25 feet. And then if you move further north, you have the professional building, which is 3 stories in height, and it's approximately 35 feet in height.
In the proposal, I'm sorry, what was the proposal, the height of the building?
52 feet.
50. Okay.
4 stories, 52 feet.
Thank you, appreciate that.
All right, Commissioners, any other? Commissioner Estrada?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One thing to, I guess, add to your first or second comment regarding traffic entry, exit of the proposed site would be if it's possible or have like some sort of designation on the street where, I think technically there's 2 lanes on Rosemead. I don't know if the rightmost lane has space to kind of carve out or like put dashed lines, indicators that say, hey, this is, go on this lane if you want to make a right here. I know sometimes, when people make a left on going east, people are either making a left and trying to go to Chick-fil-A, or they're in the middle between going left on Rosemead and Chick-fil-A. It's like there's some directional dash lines or something. I think just Rosemead does get backed up quite often. That's why I was just on time for this meeting. But it's all good. I do want to also explore if any of these resolutions, actually, before I get to I think it's going to be a little more conversation. A quick question would be, there's signage that I was reading that has to be displayed for residents to call in case of any concerns. Would that phone number correspond to the business itself or to the city?
So that note, we require during construction, that they call the construction manager on site directly first, and then, when people can't get a hold, if they shouldn't, but that's the purpose, they call the construction manager first, and then they can call the city.
Okay, so thank you for that. And the other thing I wanted to say was, are any of these resolutions? I want to make sure that, again, we're not opening something where we're going to get a lot of solicitations for these kinds of businesses in our property where it could be narrowed specific to this site.
Correct. So one of the notes that we added, it was note 1, which requires a conditional use permit. The other thing that we took into consideration was that PA zone, right? The PA zone is very limited throughout the city. It's less than 5% of our zoning designation. And again, the only other site that I found that had that PA zone designation that is 1,000 feet away from this site, which is one of the requirements that we added, is on Telegraph Boulevard, and it's basically the medical buildings on Telegraph.
And please excuse me, but can we clarify if the 1,000 feet distance, is that only for self-storage or public storage, or both?
We defined self-storage as public storage, so we have one definition. We're not separating.
Okay, so it could be for both, all right. Okay. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty. I'll go ahead and open it up to the applicant. And we can have the Madison Capital Group come forward, please. State your name. Good evening. Is that mic on? Oh, there we go. Very,
There she goes.
The light's on. Oh,
there you go.
there we go. Good evening,
Good evening.
Chairperson Garcia, Vice Chair Martinez, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. I'm Adam Lentz, the applicant. I'm a partner with Madison Capital Group, covering the Western United States, and appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight and have this project considered. I also like to give a special thanks to Deputy Director Gonzalez for working so closely with us. She was fantastic to work with, made herself available off hours. So I just want to commend her for her hard work and dedication to this. Julie did a great job covering most of the technical aspects of the project. So I won't bore you with repeating some of the same facts, but just quick on our company. Madison Capital Group, Go Store It, is a wholly owned subsidiary of our company that owns and operates over 80 self-storage projects. Oh, thank you. Nationally. So we don't hire someone else to manage it. We're deeply invested in our own projects, and we try to take that up to the community level as well. So, as I've been working personally on this project for over 18 months, so this is a great opportunity that I'm thankful to be here and present it to you. So one of the things we take very seriously is investing and contributing to the community. And so we took it upon ourselves to enact the Cadillac plan, if you will, of community outreach. You'll see that the notice radius was 1,000 feet, which is unusually large for projects of this sort. Candidly, it's the widest net that's been cast. And we went out and our team knocked on over 2,000 doors and met with a lot of people. Now, obviously, not everyone was home. Flyer that I have copies if you want to see it with an image of the project and our contact info. And the process, just correcting something that was in the initial presentation, was actually over 6 weeks, and it was repeat. People who weren't home, we went back to their homes 2 or 3 times to try to connect with them. And so through that process, we did get a petition of support of over 214 signatures to be exact, to address an issue that came up on the immediately adjacent homes. We actually, on that petition, were able to make contact after multiple attempts with 6528 Manzanar. And they actually signed the petition in support of the project. So we have an immediately abutting resident in support of the project after walking them through that. So just briefly, why self-storage? Over the last several years, partially thanks to Amazon, storage use by individuals has increased to a level never before seen. For the first time ever, over 10% of all households utilize self-storage. And just for a point, we use public storage and self-storage interchangeably. So for the first time, 10% of households use that. With the proliferation of e-commerce, we're now seeing businesses start to use it too. If you have a home business or you sell online, a lot of individual business owners use storage as inventory management. COVID was the fuel on the fire, where homeowners with extra bedrooms then converted them to gyms or in their garage or home offices. So we've seen an unprecedented demand for self-storage. And when we look at communities, we try to take a scientific approach and really identify from a site selection standpoint what makes sense. And so we've studied this area very heavily and identified a significant unmet demand. And just further proof for this, on my way over here, I made a call to the public storage at Paramount and Washington, who I know has over 1,000 units. And I called them to ask their availability, and they said of their 1,000+ units, they have 2 available. So I think that's indicative of where the market stands. I think that demand has greatly outstripped the supply. Why this location? I think you guys all hit the nail on the head. It's a tough site. It's been vacant for 42 years. As we studied, we learned that there has been calls for prostitution, drug use, homelessness on this site. So we view it as, call it an attractive nuisance, and I think we can bring a really high-quality project that would benefit the community with an attractive, safe project that would cut down on some of the nuisances and calls that the city may get about this site. I'm happy to bring up our project. We have our whole team here, architects, engineers, construction team, and I'm happy to bring them up if you want. I know there's probably some basketball fans out there that want to catch the championship, so if you guys want more detail, we have an architect. I'm happy to bring him up, but to address some of the specific questions that were raised, street trees, in addition to the landscape plan that was shown, we're actually conditioned to provide 2 additional street trees in tree wells. So it'll be really heavily landscaped. The question about the windows, Julia answered it, that we respect the privacy of our neighbors, so we're not doing windows where anyone could look into anyone's yards. Lights will all be focused downward. And so just real quick, you guys have seen how it is. Here's a before and after. Lights will all be focused. It'll be well illuminated. It'll be safe. It'll be secure. Just wanted to point out some of our security features going from a vacant lot. If you look up on the screen, all of those yellow circles, well, we'll start with access control in pink. So we have a keypad and a steel gate. No one gets on or off the site without having a unique, every one of our customers has a unique code that they either scan with a smartphone or type in at a keypad. So no one's getting on this property. We have a manned office during business hours, and then we have dozens of cameras, as you can see, the green circles, both on the exterior and interior elevator lobbies. So you're typing in a code to open the gate, you're parking, you're typing in a code to get into the elevator lobby. Then you're being watched to get on the elevator lobby and go to your floor and your storage unit. We have cameras on every floor. All of our cameras are monitored 24/7. So in addition to that, to just keep people from jumping walls, we're building some 8-foot walls and working closely with the neighbors to build something attractive back. If they want their existing fence to remain, then we'll work through that with staff. But we want to provide a safe, secure, well-lit facility. So to conclude, we're committed to making a meaningful investment in Pico Rivera, bringing a beautiful project that meets a demonstrated need. The existing facilities are full, and we think there is unmet demand, and we're here to meet a portion of that. We're also making some meaningful improvements in the public realm, redoing curb, gutter, sidewalk, adding street trees, new driveway. Everything will be done top quality with the best contractors. It's our business to do this top-notch, Class A. So we've actively engaged the community. I view it as an outpouring of support through all of our efforts. We have not had one person express opposition, nor has anyone come to the city through these public process, the notice, our community charrette. So I appreciate your time tonight and hope you'll give us consideration, and allow this project to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you need any more presentation from his team, or can we move forward?
One other point, if I could address the driveway, came up. We're providing a 28-foot wide driveway. We met with fire. So in terms of emergency access, they've approved and signed off on what we're providing. So it is a full two-way with gated, deep enough queuing. So we won't be lining up cars and dumping cars on the roads, man.
Before I go to Commissioner, I just have a quick thought. When you're coming out of the facility, and right now you can only turn right on Rosemead, there ain't going to be no trees that are going to block my view from turning out onto the main highway there of Rosemead?
No, sir. The engineering and planning department will ensure, I think they call it site visibility triangles, so that there's no obstructions.
Commissioner Vanessa Martinez.
Thank you, Chairman. Quick question for you. I'm sorry, the construction drawings are a little blurry for me. So if I'm not mistaken, the northern part of this parcel, the perimeter block wall, is the driveway, correct? And then there's a gate, however many feet, it's unclear, in which that perimeter block wall will be exposed to the public, correct?
You're talking on the southern, so it looks up and down. It's actually rotated with the orientation of Rosemead. So the wall on the adjacent to Angels Motel,
Yes, that's correct.
yeah, there'll be an 8-foot block wall there with landscaped vines growing up it. But
You just answered my question. Excellent. Where I was going with this, it could be potential exposure for, graffiti and any kind of vandalism. So I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Commissioners, any other additional information? Thank you very much.
thank you.
Julia, do we have any public comment from anybody any written public?
The only public comments was the petition that was signed, and a copy was provided,
Okay,
but no other public comments.
okay, thank you. Okay, so no other further comments for the applicant? And can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close.
Motion? We have a second?
Second.
Well, it's moved in second. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, any discussion, comments before we vote on this item? Any other last-minute thoughts?
I just want to say thank you for conducting the outreach to the staff who put this together, along with the developers team. Thank you for putting this and making it happen. I just would like to, say for the residents of Pico Rivera, to always pay attention to when our land use, or how the city is using land, who the city is working with. This seems like it was well thought out, and I would encourage the public to continue participating, and I hope future business or people who want to do business in our city also conduct the same outreach, extensive outreach, to ensure that we have something that the people can be happy with.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. I can go ahead and call for the question to, do we have a motion to approve this item?
Motion to approve.
It's been moved by Commissioner Solis. You have a second?
Second.
Any other discussions, comments? There be none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, or do you want me to do an individual roll call? Individual roll call, just for the record.
Okay. And we're saying the motion passes on roll call. Let's see, Chairperson Garcia,
Yes.
Commissioner Vanessa Martinez,
Yes.
Commissioner Esther Solis,
Yes.
Commissioner Edgar Estrada,
Yes.
and Commissioner Eric Martinez.
Yes.
The motion unanimously passes.
I was going to say for the benefit of the audience, Commissioner, but you have the whole team out there. Who knows what just happened? But just a final thought before we go to the next item. I did call a couple of people that I know that do work at Public Storage, and just so that we have everybody's ear out there, we really got to monitor people really trying to live inside those units. So I'm glad to see that there's thorough cameras that are going to be placed in there. That seems to be the big problem. There's a high demand for storage, and then just watching out for people trying to reside in there. Okay, let's go ahead and move along. Public comments. Any public comments?
No public comments, no folks from the public.
As you exit, congratulations and thank you for all the time invested. No public comments. Okay, consent calendar.
So we have a couple of items for the consent calendar. The first one is approval of a resolution finding of conformance, general plan conformance for the acquisition of 9201 Whittier Boulevard. So our administrative department, they are moving forward with a few property acquisitions within the city. And the idea is to turn them into some type of public use. So you will be seeing a few of these finding of conformance. So per the government code, the cities and local agencies are required to, when they're purchasing a property, to make a finding of conformance with the general plan. And as you know, the general plan is the city's constitution, so they have to make some findings via a resolution adopting those. So and this is one of the first steps, really, prior to acquiring a property. So one of the first properties that the city is looking at is 9201 Whittier. The site is about 5,245 square feet. I'm sorry, there's a building, 5,245 square feet. The lot size is 5,207. The zoning is general commercial, and the purchase price is currently at 1.7. The city can't pay more than the appraised price, so that's something that the city is working with an appraiser to appraise the property. And one of the reasons that that property, the city wants to acquire that property, is for additional parking. So parking in that northern side of Whittier Boulevard is just notorious for the lack of, even though we have some public storage, public parking. it's still not sufficient. Back when those buildings were built, parking was not an issue. You know, a lot of those commercial uses did not require a high parking demand. So a lot of those businesses need to share the street, and they need to share, you know, the public parking in the area. So the idea is to start acquiring properties in that area and turn them into a parking facility, potentially a parking structure. So these are just a few views of the property and aerial. So it's near that Durfee area. We have the new business that was built a few years ago, the brewery, Brujeria there. So they use nighttime parking. There's a medical clinic in the area that uses that facility for their clients that go there. So it's much needed parking. Aside from the idea of building it for parking, there's not much more at this point. We're bringing it to the Planning Commission to do this finding of conformance, so the city can move on the purchase, and then it'll go to the city council. Making the finding of conformance doesn't commit the city to purchasing the property. It just makes the finding so the city can proceed and conduct further study. You know, this building has been notorious for our code enforcement with tagging on the windows. So a lot of times, you know, they put these stickers up, so they're trying to, you know, kind of encourage or discourage graffiti. It's not the best, but I mean, that's the way that they've tried to deal with graffiti. And these are just different side views of the building. That's the rear. And that concludes the.
You know, if I'm a business owner, I'm happy to see additional parking in that area. I mean, Atacoa, Joe's Barber Shop right there on the back. And everybody's crunched up right there. But any questions, comments from the commissioners?
Is it just that one building?
Commissioners, Elise?
Yeah, at this point, it's the one building, but I know the city manager has asked our Mike Garcia, the director, to look at possibly looking at some other sites within, you know, next to that building and see if they would be potentially for sale. It's a small site, but, you know, we're trying to kind of land bank or, you know, do something temporary while the city, you know, continues to purchase land in that area for parking.
Commission.
Chairman, thank you. Has there been any complaints from the adjacent properties in terms of too much traffic? Like I know we have Brujeria there, and we also have a place of worship next door to that public parking lot.
Not traffic, it's parking. They're all competing for parking. So when these businesses have events, like I believe it's the VFW.
VFW, American Legion, anything on Durfee.
Yeah.
It spills all the way this way, going west. It's a nightmare. It really is. Even for the residents. If you're a homeowner in that area, it's tough. Because if I'm attending one of the events at one of the facilities at the VFW American Legion, well, it's the American Legion now, the 411, I park in front of a residential in the back, I'm taking away their spot. So this, you know.
Given the new parking opportunities, has staff considered any permitted parking?
We've actually discussed that as part of the parking plan, so we will be bringing that back to the Planning Commission and eventually the City Council. However, the way the current parking resolution stands is we need a majority vote by the businesses and it's about 65%. We might bring that back for a change to change that resolution. But yeah, that's up for further discussion. I know when we were having community meetings regarding the parking plan, there was, you know, there was a mix. Some people did want a parking district. Some people didn't want to pay for parking. So it just depends on the Planning Commission, City Council, and then, you know, the majority of the people in that area.
And if we do acquire this property, are we considering restriping the existing parking lot so there's a uniform look?
Yes, that would be something for consideration is cleaning up the sites and making them conform to our municipal code. I mean, we do have parking standards. And a parking stall is typically 9 by 18. And then we have compact parking standards as well.
Excellent, thank you.
Any other comments? Commissioner Estrada?
Who would pay for any development there if it were just whether it's a flat surface parking or it's a building, like a structure, like a 2-3 story structure? Who would pay for that?
At this point, the city is looking to purchase a property. Any future development it could be a mix of the city and a private development. I know there's a discussion, not just with this site, but if we're able to acquire, other sites next to, perhaps it's a mix, provide a developer some density in lieu of them building kind of a parking structure. So just generally, it could be private, public, and, we're just throwing out ideas, but nothing is set in stone at this point.
And the parking structure behind this building, is that private or public?
It's I believe that's the public parking lot. There's 2 public parking lots in the area.
And it gets used up by everybody,
Yes.
right there, Commissioner? If it's like. a
All
first
right, I'm
come,
familiar. I'm just curious to know, like, how are we gonna make this happen? Like, is it we're just trying to buy property and kind of sit on it for a while, or I know we need money to make this happen. So I'd like to know if it's gonna come from the city's coffers or someone else is gonna come in and try to develop it. And if that's the case, who's gonna get the profit? Is it to what degree is it gonna hurt our residents or visitors? So I'm just thinking.
Yeah, and any most future development, commercial, anything over 2,500 square feet would require a conditional use permit. So you would be seeing it first prior to the city.
And is there a 1,000-foot radius outreach for any development here? What would that look like?
So our minimum is actually 300, but planning staff, we always advise the applicant to go 1,000 feet because it bodes well for their project, right? It's viewed very well because they did extra outreach. But the minimum per the code is 300 feet.
Is it possible to add here that any future development on this property would be 1,000 feet? Because it's a tight neighborhood, and I mean, I don't know how far 300 feet takes you, but I think just given the impact there with the apartment homes, I think there's a mobile home park somewhere around Durfee, and all the homes there, all those single family homes, businesses, place of worship. I think we should go above and beyond in this case because I know the city wants to revitalize Whittier Boulevard. And so I think if we're going to revitalize, we need to do something that the public will be providing some input or at least awareness of what's going to happen in there. 'Cause this place has been here for a while. I mean, I think I used to go there as a kid, for I don't know what doctor's appointment, but I know I've been there, and any changes there I think would be good for the community to provide input. So that would be my amendment, if we can add any proposed development on this site to require a 1,000-foot outreach component to it.
So is there any other comments that we could ask for a question with Commissioner Estrada's 1,000-foot outreach amendment? Any other comments?
Oh, I have just one last question for staff, kind of separate from that. Do you anticipate, I understand a lot of these adjacent buildings are substandard, seismic-wise, et cetera. So do you anticipate the adjacent buildings, like if I'm not mistaken, Chase is not going to be there for much longer, getting knocked down and redeveloped? Do you have any opinion when it comes to these adjacent establishments?
That's really our hope, is that these, underutilized buildings, Chase Bank is like a perfect example of, like, it's way too big, right? It's being harder and harder to fill these commercial sites just because everything's going online, right? So, yeah, that's definitely the hope, and we try to work with developers to kind of have more flexible standards.
Any other? Okay, so we can go ahead and ask, approve this resolution with Commissioner Estrada's amendment of the 1,000, adding 1,000 feet for outreach. Is that what you're?
Yeah, the radius.
Yes, the radius. So if we can put that amendment in there, and let's go ahead and call, can I have a motion to approve
Motion to approve.
with the amendment of the 1,000 foot hour?
Motion to approve, and this motion includes a radius of 1,000 feet outreach.
A second?
Second.
It's moved in second. All those in, roll call, please.
Okay. Chairperson Garcia,
Yes, with the amendment.
Commissioner Solis,
Yes.
Commissioner Eric Martinez,
Yes.
Commissioner Vanessa Martinez,
Yes.
and Commissioner Estrada.
Yes.
This is on a roll call unanimously.
Okay, we have the next item, a resolution finding the general plan conformance of acquisition of 5055 Passengers Boulevard.
Great, and just a point of clarification in the agenda, we have these as public hearings. The government code actually does not require a public hearing for these, and that's why we place them under consent item. So I just wanted to make that clarification.
Thank you for that clarification.
So this is another parcel that the city's looking at purchasing, 5055 Passengers Boulevard. It's 19,611 square feet. And it's zoned residential multifamily. And the purchase price is, it's pending. The site is actually owned by Montebello. This is kind of the transit stop for the Montebello bus line. So the city, in working with the city of Montebello, the city applied for a grant, our Parks Department, and they were awarded, I believe, a $1 million grant to build a passive park at the site. So at this point, they're working on obtaining an appraisal to appraise the property and purchase it for a future park development. So these are just different pictures, side views of the site. The site's pretty run down, as you can see, and if you've driven by that area. That's the last of the photos. So in the same context as the one before, we're in the early stages. They're working on an appraisal for the site, and they would like to develop at the city for open space.
Commissioners, any comments? Commissioner Solis?
The city has not acquired it yet, correct?
Correct.
Because I heard at one of the council meetings that there was a plan or something to acquire that. So Montebello has not said, yes, you own this property yet.
Correct.
So whatever they're purchasing, would they purchase the whole land use, or would there be certain sections of that that would still belong to Montebello?
So they're looking at, the city would purchase the entire site, but one of the requests from the bus line, I believe, was perhaps to leave a bathroom there, should the need arise for their transit facility. But that has been, it hasn't been finalized, right? It's just been a discussion. We don't know, how the buses are they still gonna, they can't drive onto the site, right? So are they gonna drive adjacent and park it at the nearest bus stop and then use the restroom? So that was one of the discussions that have not been fully fleshed out yet.
Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you. Speaking of parking, if this is a public facility, where would folks park, or is the expectation that they reach this property by foot?
So that's been for discussion. I know there's different thoughts within even our staff. Typically, if it's a passive open space, right, you're not going to have any sports leagues. the expectation is that surrounding neighborhood are the ones that are going to use it. When you have more than an active open space, like you have sports or, something that attracts more residents, then that's where the parking need is. So that has not been determined. We don't, they haven't commissioned an architect yet to develop a rendering of what that would look like.
And anything that comes off that side would come in front of this body?
That, this is a little bit different because it wouldn't be a private development. So this, I believe, would go directly to the city council just because it would be more of an open space use.
Any other comments? Call for the question. Can we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
There's a motion to approve. I have a second. Any commissioner on a second?
I'll second.
It's moved in second. Can we have a roll call, please?
Chairperson Garcia,
Yes.
Commissioner Solis,
Yes.
Commissioner Eric Martinez,
Yes.
Commissioner Vanessa Martinez.
Yes.
Commissioner Estrada.
Yes.
Motion passes on a unanimous vote.
All right, approval of minutes of the planning meeting. There was quite a few minutes. I looked on there.
Oh, my goodness, look how far back.
Do we read each one or should we?
You can read each one. I know Commissioner Vanessa Martinez had some concerns. If you did not attend the meeting, you can abstain. So
Yeah.
it's only for those who were
Right.
present during that meeting.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, just to piggyback, Chairman, the first 6 dates, I was not a planning commissioner and I didn't attend, so I would have to abstain.
Exactly.
Remainder, I would like to move.
I think we're in
forward.
the same boat.
Excellent.
All right, for those commissioners that were here, I'll go ahead and take them one by one. May 7, 2018. We have a motion to,
I don't think I was here 2018.
Yeah, that's right. Parties.
yeah, and I looked back and said, okay, 4 years.
Wow. Do you,
I'll abstain May 7.
Okay,
excuse me, do you have a list of attendance of what commissioners were there?
I think they're on the minutes.
Oh, they're there.
On the
Okay.
back, yes. Yes.
Sheesh.
Yeah, at the back.
You don't remember May 7, 2018?
I don't remember yesterday.
He's- Yeah, it's towards the back of all the minutes.
Goodness. We're gonna- Yep. Yeah, I was there, I was a chair, so I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
You were here.
you and Zermano and Gomez.
Zerbano, imagine how
Yeah.
far back.
Chairman, if I could also draw attention to one more thing. There was an update in the agenda in our packet. We received the last date reading September 10th, and it has been updated with the agenda that was placed on our desk to read September 20th, which is when the meeting actually took place.
Oh, good catch. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So if we just have one or two commissioners, Unia, do we still proceed with the approval?
Yes.
Okay, so we're just gonna take it one by one. For those commissioners who were here, you can abstain or approve, okay? All right, let's go with May 7, 2018.
I think I was the only one. Okay. Yes.
Yes. All we have was one. Abstain.
Everyone else abstained.
Everyone else
You were
abstain.
not part of the commission.
No.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
for the record, exactly. Okay, let's go to February 4th, 2019.
Okay. Yes.
For those commissioners that were here? Yes, and Commissioner Solis?
So actually, the new commissioners, except for Edgar, right? You've been here since when?
I think I came in 2019.
2019.
I think I was here for February. Yeah, I think we approved something.
Yes.
Oh, yes,
Is this even legal? Go back.
yeah.
And I didn't receive the February 14 minutes in my physical copy of my packet, but it was on the digital packet that was emailed.
Can we approve minutes with just one person?
Turn on your mic.
Oh.
I think we're closing the old business here, closing the loop. So I don't see the February 4th on my packet. I don't know if you guys.
Yeah, it's page 179 of the PDF. I'm not sure if the pages in the printout are paginated. I don't think they are, but
If you'd like me to make the distinction, there was 4 physical minutes that didn't make it to my doorstep, but they did make it in the PDF.
Okay.
That was February 4th, March 18th, March 1st, and May 17th didn't make it into my physical packet. But I did cross-reference all 4 of those, and they were in the PDF.
okay.
I'm sorry, can you please repeat those again?
No problem, Chair. February 4th,
Uh-huh,
March 18th,
uh-huh.
2019 for both of those dates, March 1st of 2021, and May 17th of 2021. Those 4 will not be in your physical packet.
That's, thank you, thank you.
All right.
I have them in my physical. Yeah, yeah, we should.
Do we need to come back to those, or?
Yeah, should probably be pulled out for
Okay.
the next meeting. to tackle
Okay,
the next
we'll weed those out and we'll proceed.
Yes.
And we'll just carry it over to the next
That's right.
meeting. All righty. All right, so we'll scratch February 4th at this time and March 18th. We'll go to October 5th, 2020.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
You have 2 yes.
And
we're the only ones here.
Martinez, yes?
Abstain.
Abstain.
Oh, abstain.
Abstain. And Commissioner Eric,
Oh, abstain.
And,
abstain.
okay,
November 16th, 2020.
Yes.
Abstain.
Yes.
Yes.
Abstain.
Abstain. December 14th, 2020.
Abstain.
Did we have one on December 14th?